Well, hello, good evening. Good evening to Sonia and to Michael as well. Peter Mandelson's lawyers have gone on the attack tonight. They say that the former Labour grandee had an agreement with the police to attend a voluntary interview next month, and the decision to arrest him was prompted by a baseless suggestion that he was planning to leave the country. Whatever the outcome of the investigation into whether Lord Mandelson is guilty of misconduct in public office, it is clear that he is not going quietly. So, Michael, Sonia, clear that yesterday's arrest quite took him by surprise.
It is very clear. It's very Peter Mandelson, isn't it, to come out post-arrest angry that the police arrested you because you had pre-arranged with them to do an interview under caution next month. So, yes, he's certainly fighting back, shall we say, in the press.
Michael?
Yes, I mean, I think that the images of the arrest yesterday and the knowledge that Peter Mandelson was released in the early hours of this morning, and that there was briefing, of course, about that, will have more than discomforted him. He vigorously protests his innocence, and the idea that he would have to be arrested and the inference that he was preparing to flee, apparently, according to claims the police believe, to the British Virgin Islands, I think will have, for a man who's already down, hit him particularly hard. And Peter Mandelson famously, faced with a previous political reverse, said he was a fighter, not a quitter. I think it's pretty clear from the way in which he's handling this arrest that he is not someone who is going to go quietly.
So let's read that statement then from Peter Mandelson's lawyers in full. They say, Peter Mandelson was arrested yesterday despite an agreement with the police that he would attend an interview next month on a voluntary basis. The arrest was prompted by a baseless suggestion that he was planning to leave the country and take up permanent residence abroad. There is absolutely no truth whatsoever in any such suggestion. We have asked the MPS for the evidence relied upon to justify the arrest. Peter Mandelson's overriding priority is to cooperate with the police investigation, as he has done throughout this process, and to clear his name. Well, John Craig, our chief political correspondent, has joined us. John, very Mandelsonian, one might say, to come out fighting in this way. But where did this information come from that he was preparing to flee, as Michael Gove just said, to the British Virgin Islands, which is not far away from the US Virgin Islands, of course, which is part of the Jeffrey Epstein estate?
What a conspiracy theory that is. Yeah, our sources actually are telling us something similar, actually. As for where the allegation came from, that remains a mystery and is hotly disputed. Now, our sources say that, yes, Scotland Yard had planned to interview him under caution. It was expected to take place... Not now, Prime Minister, sorry.
There's always one.
Peter on the line.
Yeah, where was that? Oh, yes, the interview was expected to take place in a fortnight, we're told, going through laptops, etc., is proving very time-consuming, we're told, by our sources. It would not have required his arrest. Monday morning, everything changed. The Met were informed of claims that Mandelson was preparing, indeed, to flee Britain for the British Virgin Islands. Police conducted a series of interviews about the claims, then arrested him on Monday afternoon. And as you've said, Anna, it came as a complete surprise to him. So he was bailed in the early hours of Tuesday morning. That was about 1:15 a.m, got back home about 2 a.m. Not clear if he had to surrender his passport, but we're told that's usually a condition of bail in such cases. Now, there was, talking of conspiracy theories, there was a suggestion that the reason for his arrest was that the Lord Speaker, Michael Forsyth, no less, used to be a thrusting young Thatcherite in your day, didn't he?
He was, colleague.
And now the Lord Speaker took over from John McFall only a few weeks ago. The Lord Speaker tipped off the Met Police and that Mandelson was about to flee. However, speaking to Sky News, Lord Forsyth has said this: any suggestion at all that the Lord Speaker, this is a spokesperson for him, any suggestion at all that the Lord Speaker received information about Lord Mandelson's movements or communicated any such information to the Metropolitan Police Service is entirely false and without foundation. So, as you've been discussing, it's a fight back from Lord Mandelson, isn't it? From his lawyers, but it does seem to be corroborated by what we've been told.
Yes. And Michael, quite aside from the criminal investigation underway, we learned yesterday from Darren Jones in Parliament that not all of the documents would be forthcoming straight away. And now Stephen Swinford from The Times has suggested specifically what they will be. One, the Cabinet Office's due diligence report given to Keir Starmer prior to Mandelson's appointment, which detailed evidence about his friendship with Epstein, and that Mandelson stayed with in Epstein's New York apartment while Epstein was in jail for sex offences. And two, the follow-up questions that Starmer then put back to Mandelson, 3 of them, Stephen Swinford says, and Mandelson's responses, they will also be withheld because they could prejudice a potential criminal trial. What do you think about the fact that these critical documents will be withheld, potentially for months, potentially for longer?
Indefensible. I can see no justification for the police withholding them. Parliament has voted for the release of these documents. It's a clear democratic will of Parliament that they should be shared. And I cannot believe for a moment that they would prejudice any criminal trial. I think that it's another example of the police, which we've seen sometimes in the past, putting what they believe to be the integrity of their process against the broader interests of democracy and justice. And I think that they should be challenged to justify and explain their reasoning, because ultimately Parliament is sovereign.
Is there a danger, though, if you get a free-for-all on all these documents being released, that the quiet debate inside government no longer happens for fear that whatever you say will ultimately come into the public domain? And actually that is a hindrance, in fact, to the workings of government.
There is a broader argument about making sure that advice which is given by civil servants to ministers should remain confidential so people can be frank and candid. But here there has been a clear and exceptional vote by Parliament because they consider that the whole issue of Peter Mandelson's operation and the way in which he conducted himself and the manner of the appointment was so serious and so concerning that exceptional means are required in order to investigate it. And we can have that broader debate about freedom of information. And I think that sometimes the government is right to say, look, this information should not be released. But when Parliament has spoken in this way, it is not for the police to second-guess them.
OK, well, frustrations in government certainly running deep. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, spoke to the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who was in Ukraine today to mark the 4th anniversary of the war, something we will cover shortly. Let's listen to what she had to say.
As a woman at the top of the government, seeing this unfold, seeing the emails between Mandelson and Epstein, there's one when Mandelson asked Epstein how Freedom is feeling, and Epstein replies she feels fresh, fruity and creamy, fresh, firm and creamy, and Mandelson replies, naughty boy. I mean, how do you respond?
Just vile. It just makes me so angry. Look, I'm not going to cut across. There's a whole series of police investigations, a whole set of other things, but that makes me feel so angry.
Yvette Cooper went on to say that he should never have been appointed and that Mandelson is, in a sense, a distraction from the focus of those who deserve justice, which is women and girls.
Well, it is and it isn't. I think we need to be quite clear that there are 2 sorts of groups of crimes, potential crimes that we're talking about here. One relates to Epstein's sex trafficking. The only person who is in prison for that is a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, his accomplice. We know that Epstein trafficked these young girls, very vulnerable girls, to powerful men in his networks. We don't know who they are. And actually lots of names were redacted by the US Department of Justice. So Yvette Cooper is absolutely right that there is a whole set of queries around that are of great importance. I've written a lot about Virginia Giuffre, who very sadly took her life a year ago, one of Epstein's victims. They deserve justice and they deserve transparency. But that shouldn't be allowed to, to conceal the fact that there's also another question, which is around allegations around the transmission of confidential, market-sensitive information from the heart of government to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we have seen emails from these files. We have seen emails relating to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, to Peter Mandelson. They are just allegations that are denied. People can look at the emails, though, and draw their own conclusions. But it's very important to understand there are 2 types of wrongdoing that are in question here. And absolutely right, we shouldn't lose focus on the victims, but neither should the government say, well, actually, there's nothing to see here because it's all about the victims, because that's just kind of using the victims for your own political,
Yes,
benefit,
and,
really.
worth reiterating again, Lord Mandelson, as you pointed out as well, denies all wrongdoing